All right, so my name's Rachel, this is Will, and that's Taylor. We're all master's students in biotechnology, and today we're going to be talking about ECG for me. So how many of you play sports, or maybe used to play sports, or maybe have children that are involved in sports? Well, what if I told you 2,000 children die every year from sudden cardiac events? Unfortunately, 1 in 500 individuals actually have HCM, which is a cardiac disease on the same level of occurrences as AIDS and muscular dystrophy. Even more alarming, 1 in 250 have DCM, which is another prevalent cardiac condition in these populations. Unfortunately, only 25% of these individuals actually affected are saved by current treatment methods such as CPR. And many of these children are not presenting any signs or symptoms, so they are not being monitored for these conditions upon a visit to their primary physician. And as most of us can attest to, trying to get to a specialist is really trying in that you have to see your primary and then schedule for a specialist visit, which can take weeks, and depending on your rigorous schedules, can be really annoying. So we have currently come up with ECG for Me, which is a wearable heart monitor. It is small, it's lightweight, it's worn on the chest, it's easily concealed, and it is paired with a smartwatch and a smartphone to continuously monitor, detect, and alert for cardiac conditions in these athletes. Our target range is 5 to 25 years old, as they are the most susceptible to these cardiac conditions. Currently, we are working with the Apple Watch Series 4, as this has been our primary focus for our product, but with funding, hopefully, we look to move away from this and hit other markets.
So the innovation of our product is that it's user-friendly and it is very cost-efficient. To go to a cardiologist and get a 12-lead ECG stress test done costs $1,500. Our product would be substantially cheaper than that and could be used over and over again. Yes. Also, it's not a medical device. It's actually just going to be a detection device, which bars the necessity to have FDA approval, which would bring us to market much, much faster, obviously. But it would detect these arrhythmias and notify primary care doctors so you could get a better diagnosis and prognosis going forward. We did a survey of parents, athletes, and coaches around UML and found that 85% of them use iPhones. So we decided to build our tech on the platform of iOS for now, but we might move to Android going forward as we grow if this works. We also found that 56% would want to use the monitoring device daily, and the average person would pay $115 per unit. Now, in America, there's 42 million student athletes, young, ages 5 to 15, and 8 to 10 million college athletes. So there's a substantial market there, and if we can extrapolate from this 55% that would use it every day, I think that proves a pretty viable market. Keep going. As I did note before, we are a non-medical device. We don't diagnose, we just detect. So we can kind of knock out Holter monitors and other medical grade devices. We really need to compare our product to what is currently on the market. As an example, I have a Polar H7, which is one of the more common heart monitors on the market, but there's Garmin's and Fitbits and whatnot. What we can see is, comparing Polar to ECG for me, they will do the heart rate, do the ECG function, and they have a comparable cost to what we suppose we will have our retail value at. However, the functionality of these devices on the market is they do not detect for these arrhythmias and abnormalities in the EKG that detect the disease or are indicative of the disease. So we are actively prototyping right now. I've been developing the actual module that will 3D print. We've been acquiring all the components, the electrodes, the Arduino chips, Bluetooth. So we're in the phase of prototyping. Taylor has been working on devising a study, to actually test for the validity and accuracy of our device against standard ECG 12 lead. And Rachel has been working on the user interface. That's coming along nicely. We are lacking a software development team member, but we have a mentor who is, we're getting that together. So resources just need to be going into this prototype. And I'd like to give a special thanks to our advisors, Dr. Wild, no, she's not there, she left, for mentoring us. We're all scientists, and she gave us a good business understanding how we should be looking at this as a business. And then Dr. Jeffrey Moore is a cardiologist who's given us great insight into what leads we should be looking for and how to actually detect these arrhythmias. And especially like to thank you guys for giving us the platform to hopefully create a device that could save thousands of unneeded young lives. Thank you.
You were over time, but the thanks were the bit, so I let them go on.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it. No, so 10 minutes Q&A, please. After you, judges.
Good
job.
Thank you.
So I actually have a question. So it's not a medical device, and you clearly state that. It shows on the watch the rhythm that the person is in.
Mm-hmm.
So what if the rhythm is not a good rhythm, but it's not fatal? And how does that person know that it's not? And as opposed to the comparison that you did, say the Holter monitor, it's a medical device, it's being looked at by medical professionals, you're called. How do you, where's the...
So we're comparing the cardiograms, right?
Yeah.
To make sure our device will actually, if there's a T-wave inversion,
Yeah.
is indicative of ARVC. So that's what. Could you answer this?
Yeah, I can answer. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with ECGs, but typically you have
Yeah, I can show
we have it in our
right
slide.
there.
So
small, but-
basically, right here. So basically, that little bump right there, it's going to be inverted in individuals who are who have this condition. So there's an algorithm that obviously we'll be creating that is going to detect for this little bump. It's going to send an alert to your phone, and on the app you can actually designate who you want this alert to go to, so your parent, your coach, maybe your doctor, and it's going to just simplify it in the most easiest terms for people who are not knowledgeable on the actual terms, and let you know if you actually have this disease. And we picked a smartwatch because most students, especially if they're not runners, I mean, I'm a runner, I ran for UML, I do have my phone on me sometimes, but I usually just have a watch. So if you're out playing soccer, or if you're out, playing baseball, you can wear a watch. You're allowed to have a watch, and that's why we chose the smartwatch. So you will actually see if there's an arrhythmia on your phone, on your watch.
So it's not a medical device, which is a very good move. You'll save a lot of money there. But you're transferring patient data. And so do you have HIPAA compliance requirements? And if so, maybe associated with that, is the data stored anywhere? And then how is it transferred, and how are you securing it if you have to secure it?
So I think we would like to make, you'd have your own personalized account where it would store your data, so that would be password protected. I don't believe that would be medical device, because the Apple Watch right now can take an ECG function if you hold it, but that's not considered medical information, so it doesn't get protected by HIPAA. So we would mostly go password-based, and it would be in the database, so if you needed to show your doctor, you could go back and look at it.
It's probably worth investigating, because I can pay some little guy from the Ukraine and parse the Bitcoin to get into your password protected database.
Right.
I won't, but someone could. If you had thousands of students here, they could find that interesting.
And that definitely goes along with advancing our software development and really getting down to the nuts and bolts of how this app platform is actually going to showcase on the phone.
I have two quick questions. Apple Watch now can detect for AFib.
AFib, yes.
How does that compare to what you're doing?
So I'll show you. We have additional leads. So AFib is not present with our conditions. Our conditions will present as VFib and lead to cardiac arrest. So the leads that we're targeting right now are B1, B2, and B3, and that's across the chest. And with the Apple Watch right now, you only have one lead on the wrist. You don't have the chest leads. So
Okay, now I have 2 children who've played sports actively. What does this look like?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, do I
so-
stick it on a 6-year-old's chest?
Yes.
Some little thing that sticks like
Yeah, so it'll be like
cups, or how does this
adhesive
work?
nodes that the electrodes.
yeah, so
That
this
will
another
come-
Is it just bigger?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's going to be ideally much smaller than that. It's going to be lightweight, and this is pretty much the size that we're looking at, just to fit those 3 leads right there.
And if they wear it for multiple seasons, I mean.
Yeah, just
your intent
the
is
pads
to-
will have to be replaced and the battery recharged.
So would the plate, okay, sort of like the razor and the razor blade?
Hmm?
Could it be the razor and the razor blade?
Yes,
where the
yeah.
pads are
Yeah.
actually part of
Yeah.
ongoing revenue, right?
Right.
We chose the pads because we find that this is more comfortable than wearing a chest strap
Right.
across your body.
Plus they're replaceable, so you could keep using it over and over again.
And the maintenance is very little, if not none.
And is there education to the person wearing it, since it has to be able to be 1, 2, and 3? Like the location of the placement is?
Yeah, it would definitely be in like your kit that you would get. You would definitely be you would be aware of where you needed to place the product.
Okay.
Have you looked at patentability, and if anybody's tried to patent this already?
So nobody has patented, as far as I could see. Everything I've seen, it's been like trade secret, just for the algorithm they use.
Yeah.
So as far as patentability, I don't think we would go that route just for the price alone. I think, yeah, but I believe trade secret would be
Either research patentability and follow it.
Okay.
As well
Definitely,
as you can.
definitely look into it.
Second question is, have you discussed with the medical community outside of your professors?
So, our professor, Dr. Moore, was
Cardiologist.
for Harvard Med. He taught at Harvard Med, and they actually talked to a cardiologist.
Yeah, I met with Dr. David Cornell on South Campus, who he used these smartwatches to study heart rhythms in pitchers. So he said this is a feasible idea, it would work. It would just be perfecting our algorithm to detect.
Okay. And then the other part of this too is a non-disclosure agreement with whoever you talk to,
Right.
if you do go outside to the community.
Yep.
Yes.
Why have you limited this to children? Like, why isn't it like everyone that goes to HealthWorks or Golds or is a runner, like that, are in running clubs? And you know, it's admirable to avoid 2,000 childhood deaths, and if my child was one of those, I would weigh it dramatically. But it seems that the scope could be much broader, given the scalability of the solution.
The scope could be much broader. We focused on athletes 5 to 25 though, because that's where most of the death occurs. Most people living a more sedentary lifestyle, they won't trigger. Their heart won't be working as hard. They won't have these arrhythmic triggers and cardiac arrests.
So
But this could be a scale to a larger scope. Yes.
Definitely, yeah.
you get more funding if you're scaling it to a larger group. And it could be that your effort isn't just to blunt the risk of death, it's to blunt the risk of something else, you know, or identify a potential issue.
I know one of the issues with the AFib, with the Apple Watch, was they also, and part of their algorithm was to, because they just published this data for 400,000 users, right, through the Stanford Medical School. And one of the issues they looked at is how many false readings, how much additional contact with physicians, would be part of this, scaling to large numbers. So I think that was factored into their algorithm.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not a tech person, so I'm just telling you what I read. But that is something else that you'd have to think about.
Right. Yeah, we'd love to just detect it before it becomes a problem. You know, you hear about all these athletes who fall to sudden cardiac arrest. So even if the diagnosis was correct, but they went to the cardiologist and found out they didn't have a condition, that'd be better off than not knowing at all.
I mean, I can attest, I've never had a 12-lead ECG before coming to UML to run, or even before high school. It just isn't something that you see in the United States. So I definitely would have liked to have something like this while working, especially as a runner in those rigorous sports. I think it's definitely important.
Would this be, say someone doesn't have a risk, but so for a marathon runner,
Yeah.
her heart becomes enlarged, right, like over time, and then that has a risk of catastrophic heart failure. Would this protect that person, or would it help that person? Because again, I'm thinking about ways to scale. If you had people that run marathons and they said, all right, everyone that goes through, you know, these races has to wear one of these.
If she had a condition, it would be present in the ECG. So, you know, that's what your typical ECG looks like. So if you have a heart condition, it's going to affect how each signal is produced. So if there's a problem with a thickening of her wall or a thinning of the wall of her heart, it will be reflected on the ECG.
Okay, thank you. You guys are a bunch of brainiacs.
Clearly.
That is time unless there are any more pressing questions. No, in which case, congratulations, team.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you
job.
guys so much for having us.